Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 259 of Optimal Living Advice, the podcast where we take any questions you might have about the many struggles of life and get them answered for you here on the show. I am your host, certified life coach Greg Audino, reminding you before we begin that if you have a question you would like help with on the show, we welcome you to email it over to us at advice@oldpodcast.com. And I'm really grateful to have you guys here today, as always. Now, in this episode, we are going to check out a question from a parent, another one who I hope knows that I myself am not a parent, though my cat is highly rambunctious, and raising a cat can't be much harder than raising a human life, right? Right. This woman has some concerns about her teenage son, his confidence, whether or not it's an issue, and how she can handle it if it is. As you'll see, she does have reason to be unsure of all of this. So let's get into her question and try to help her get a clearer picture of her son and how she can help him. Here's what's on her mind. I worry about my teenager. His father and I have always supported him in what he wants to do and encouraged him to do his very best. I think sometimes he takes it too far. He is a varsity athlete and a straight A student. He's looking at top universities for school, has a lot of friends, and I see him treat all the other kids nicely. He has every reason to be a confident kid, but he's so hard on himself when he does something wrong. And he always seems to apologize for mistakes that aren't a big deal, no matter how much we reassure him that it's all right. Is there something more I can do as a parent to help him with this? Or do I have this all wrong? And maybe it's a sign that he's turning into a humble young adult who wants to keep working hard. Something feels wrong, but I don't know for sure and would like your opinion. A loving question from a loving mother. Thank you, ma'am, for sending this in. Some great details in this question. I can tell you've really been observing your son and taking his wellness extremely seriously, which is wonderful. So I want to point to the confident kid part that you mentioned about him having every reason to be confident. Obviously, I only know about your son as much as you've told me. But if I had to ballpark it, I would say he probably is not a confident kid. And I might even go so far as to say that the vigor with which he chases down his accomplishments only perpetuates that. Now look, this is just my guess, and even if it is true, it is absolutely not a huge thing to worry about. A lot of teenagers have problems with confidence, and it surely is not too late for any of them, your son included, to right the ship. You see, often what we perceive to be reasons that someone would have to be confident, they're really just disguises. This is especially so for people who have a habit of crumbling every time these achievements are in question, which it sounds like your son does. We have to remember that a vast majority of the time, we have no idea of how weak the foundation is that supports the confidence anyone has in themselves. Confidence is often propped up by systems we already have in place that we've come to rely on and take for granted as sources of confidence. I'm definitely guilty of this as well, and that's in spite of how seriously I take mental health. When taking a quick glance, right, I would classify myself as a confident person, and those who know me would do the same. But what if a lot of what I've worked for, big parts of my confidence, were to be taken away for some reason? What if I lost my job? What if I lost my savings? What if I sustained a serious injury that took away all the work I've done to keep myself healthy, or took away simple functions like my ability to drive or walk? I haven't been tested like that. And if all these things came crashing down at once, regardless of the self-work I love doing, I would be a complete shell of myself, and probably for a considerable amount of time. And this is true for almost everyone, especially those who have never lost anything too drastic. This is also true of your son, and it shows up in what seems to be perfectionism, since he's such a high achiever in so many important aspects of teenage life, yet scrambles at every minor mistake. If he's doing so well, but has no tolerance for his inevitable failures, and chooses to run to you for reminders of love in the face of those failures, that's someone who's hanging on by a thread to his successes. And that quest for reassurance is interesting. You know, a lot of people, intelligent people, would think of seeking reassurance as a common trait for those who lack confidence, a trait that only makes things worse because they're not relying on themselves so much as they're relying on others. So to me, this is not wrong, but I do think that asking for reassurance is not always going to end in blunder. You see, especially when we are stressed about something and have likely fallen into the habit of overestimating its terribleness, our ability to see the situation from all angles gets worse and worse. But if we seek reassurance from the right people, that reassurance can often lead to insight that the stressed out person in question has not yet thought of or has chosen to ignore because the negativity bias just feels so much more soothing or preparing. Good, reliable sources can offer good, reliable perspectives, and within their reassurance can be lessons that stand to change the thinking of those who have come to them in suffering. Examples of good, reliable sources for your son include, but are not limited to, a school counselor, a mental health counselor, and yourself. Yes, you. You're already on the right track by supporting him when he makes mistakes rather than shaming him into doing better next time. But you can go a step further, and he'll listen to you because he knows he can trust you. So, remind him of how he can attain true confidence through his actions. Remind him that he doesn't need to check in for your love or approval every time he messes something up, and that he doesn't need to do that with anybody. Remind him that he's going to keep failing, no matter how hard he tries not to, and that it's going to continue to be okay. And above all, remind him of why he's valuable outside of his achievements, and that he's not doing himself any favors by measuring himself by those achievements or dwelling on the times in which he doesn't deliver on them. All right, everyone, and that will do it from me for the day. I really hope this episode helped the asker and all of you other listeners to re-examine confidence, how it shows up, and how to address it. It is one of those ironies in that practicing screwing up, purposefully forgiving yourself, and watching your life go on in spite of your errors can actually be a great means of establishing confidence. And this is particularly valuable information in this age of high achievement and the regular exposure of that achievement. Food for thought. Guys, have a terrific day, and thanks again for being here. I'll see you next time.